make that change.
We should make the change.
In the action committee recap, any
So
input?
that-
I mean, anything you really wanted that to be included in there?
You did a good job.
Test.
That'd be good. A good job, what?
Testing. Does that work?
I'm just gonna say that, because I'm drafting those resolutions, I'm gonna say that we're gonna take a look at like
Move up
just
a
the
little
drafts
bit
at
more
the
and be
next
closer
action
to the
committee
fan.
for graffiti and the like input
I mean,
for project
I don't remember sitting
development
this far back.
approvals, right? Those are the big stuff. The community, like, sorry.
Well, I was thinking a little closer to the fan might be nice. What do you think?
Yeah, we can move it to the back.
Well, we gotta be careful.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, we-
I know.
We all
Yeah, over, we can keep the furniture, I have this.
Moana.
Sure what.
Or they're such divas, man.
Forward, go.
Well, that's
a better.
I have not run.
Not running? That sucks.
I got that neat. Okay.
Back here, it's a breeze.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, it's hitting me. I like it.
Yeah.
It's me, I don't see him.
Yeah, okay. From the tree. Good, I know. My life.
Citizens,
I'm today.
I think we all are.
something you.
Yeah. Like hyped up.
She's house.
Test. Okay.
Mickey Bike. Remember when they first came, they said they're gonna be spelled like this?
Now, still be safe.
Right, you know what? There's no more.
Testing. Community members online, are you able to hear and see us clearly? Someone can give a thumbs up.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay, it is now 6:04 p.m. and the regular meeting of the Ala Moana Kaka'ako Neighborhood Board is now called to order. Roll call, please. Chang,
Present.
Chi. Not here yet. Behringer. Okay, I see her. Davis. Farinas. Iwamoto. Lee. Rice.
Here.
Webb. Not here. Mariano. 7 members present. Thank you, Camelia. We have quorum. Moving on to public safety reports. Honolulu Fire Department, who also sent us their written report. Are you online? Okay, we don't see Honolulu Fire Department online. We do have the link. If you go on our Drive, it's on our agenda, so you could access that online. We have all the documents that are relevant to today's meeting. Moving on to the Honolulu Police Department with Lieutenant Arnold Segusho.
Good evening, Chair Lee, board members, and everyone in attendance. Lieutenant Arnold Segusi, representing the District 1 Community Area Responsibility of HPD. I looked at you guys' agenda. It looks pretty deep, so I'm going to get right into the stats for the month of July. So motor vehicle thefts for the month of July were 13. The previous month was 11. Burglaries were 11. Previous month was 7. Thefts were 93. Previous month, 123. UMVs or car break-ins were 32. Previous month was 19. Assaults were 12. Previous month was 13. 6 assaults were 5. Previous month was 3. Graffiti cases 1. Previous 2. Drug offenses, drug-related offensive arrests were 13. Previous to that was 10. So total calls for service for your particular area was 4,091 compared to the previous month was 3,863. So yeah, UMVs or car break-ins are up for the particular area. It was being correlated to a particular group with a stolen vehicle. Officers were trying to stop this vehicle on several occasions. We have identified persons of interest with regards to that vehicle, and then that vehicle was definitely was recovered in the Makiki area in the past month, and then the UMV slightly dropped off. We're just kind of monitoring at this point in time, just trying to determine whether or not if they moved on to a different stolen vehicle to commit their crimes. But officers have continued that Keamoku initiative that was started by Major Paul Okimoto. So we're doing more high visibility patrols during the early morning hours and bar closure hours. And we have definitely seen a reduction in calls for service during those times. I just wanted to notify the board in regards to an upcoming event on September 6th, 7th, and 8th. It's going to be Badges and Buckets. It's the old Cop on Top. So we'll be at the Walmart shopping area. We're going to be accepting donations, and all of the donations go to Special Olympics. Please come out and participate and donate to this great cause. The safety tip for August would be traffic and pedestrian safety. With the university, community college, and other public and private schools starting up already, we're asking our community members, especially the drivers, to slow down, leave a little early to avoid rushing. And for our pedestrians is to look twice, make eye contact with drivers just before crossing. Yeah, we just want everybody to slow down, be aware, and so we can arrive alive. With that being said, I'm gonna give back the rest of my time so I can take any questions from the board members and public attendees.
Lieutenant Segusio, thank you for that report. Board members, any questions? Community members? Oh, Secretary Davis?
Hi, Lieutenant. I know that graffiti has come up a lot in the past couple meetings. And I'm seeing here that there was one case this month and 2 last month. It's not super high, but I also was just wondering if you could share any like patterns that you are seeing in terms of who is kind of participating in it. Is it younger people, older people? Is it really, related to group activity? Any insights that you have so we can have some better input for that?
Absolutely. So, board member Lynn Mariana is, me and him have been speaking in regards to this issue. So there's a lot of graffiti that we see, especially around the construction areas. If you can see them, they'll kind of spray paint those dust screens and stuff like that. The reason those cases aren't being generated sometimes is because it's very difficult to get in touch with the construction company to generate those types of cases. So actually the numbers might be a little higher than what I'm reporting. However, it's a temporary screen. Sometimes these construction companies or these businesses don't want to pursue any type of case because they're going to be tearing it down eventually after the location is up and stuff. We definitely are tracking all of these graffiti types of cases. We did have a particular unit previously before when we had these particular groups that were going out and doing these graffiti type murals. But with that being said, we're definitely tracking it. We're trying to correlate, handwriting experts, that kind of stuff. But I don't want to kind of divulge on how we're kind of monitoring these guys. Let's just say it's social media. We're kind of monitoring some of these groups via social media, and I'll leave it at that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Community members? Okay, Lieutenant Segusio, thank you.
Thank you. You guys have a great night.
Thanks. Moving on to board business, filling of board vacancies. We still need to fill a position for Subdistrict 1. So do we have any nominations or interest? No one wants to be on our board? Okay, we'll go ahead and move this along to the next agenda item, but I do want to urge community members to consider joining your neighborhood board so you can have a voice and represent your neighbors in the area. Member Umoto.
Thank you, Chair. Oh, sorry.
I just wanted to, I'm moving at the end of this month from one part of our district to the other part of, so this will be my third sub-district I'm living in. I'm moving towards the collection lofts area. So I think this is I think I currently live in sub-district 3. And so there'll be another vacancy in sub-district 3. So we should spread the word if there's other people who want to apply for that sub-district next meeting. I think I'm moving to sub-district 4.
Vice Chair
Could
Reyes.
we do some publicity on our Facebook page
We can.
about the need and all of that? And I think also it'd be really cool. A neighbor of mine mentioned this to me the other day, that if all of us here on the board would invite 2 friends who live in our district to come to the meetings. I've been on this board for 3 years. I've never seen such a full house. I know some of you are making presentations or whatnot, but it's really great to see the room filled. And, but I think it's incumbent upon us to invite others, people we know, people who we all live in, most of us live in condos, invite people. I'm sure you have conversations with people. I know in my building, everyone asks me, what happens at the board meetings? I say, why don't you come? So usually I bring 2. I only have 1 guest today with me, but I think it's something we should work harder at doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Rice. And on that note, since Member Iwamoto said she was leaving, we also want to congratulate her for winning her District 25 race. So congratulations, Member Iwamoto. Okay, moving on. Approval of the July. Does anyone have any comments, concerns, edits? Okay, motion to approve? Okay. Okay, meeting minutes approved. Thank you, board. Report from the August 15th, 2024 Action Committee meeting with our committee chair, Emma Davis.
Speaking of participation, it'd be nice to get a little more participation in our action committees too. Lynn and I got to have some good one-to-one time while hosting Nobody on Zoom. But you know, I think that's really where we're trying to pull some of these deeper level conversations that we don't necessarily have as much time for at a regular meeting with so many presentations and community members to hear from. A couple quick things that came out of that. You know, we talked about graffiti for a while and trying to find a balance between accountability and also what's feasible and effective. You know, and I think my position on that, and I think we're sharing positions on at what point do we kind of criminalize it versus, you know, manage it and deal with it. And I think are looking for input on that from anybody. We talked about creating a resolution for minimums on the input that developments or projects need to get from the community. I think we see a lot of these postings for public hearings, you know, come tell us what you think, but a lot of times people aren't either necessarily paying attention to that or don't have the avenues to get that information in a timely manner. And I think we put a lot of the responsibility on the people to share their opinions and not on the people who are developing projects to actually show that they're impacting the community in a positive way. So we talked about that and potential ideas. And also just further conversation about developing a position for a communications director. You know, I think the purpose of this board is to encourage civic participation at the local level. And I think that's a place that, you know, we're hearing and wanting to push into a lot more and helps people to be more involved and informed about what's going on in our neighborhood. So potentially looking to submit a resolution and a budget to appropriate funds for those activities and in community events, and potentially a partnership with McKinley High School as well in getting young people involved in what it means to take part in our democracy. That's what we got to talk about at the Action Committee. So please come participate next time on September 12th, Thursday, September 12th. I think we'll continue some conversation. I'll have some drafts of these resolutions, and we'll send out an agenda as well with any other topics that kind of come up from our meeting today. Thank you. Do you have anything else?
Thank you, Secretary Rice. Thank you both for working on the Action Committee meeting last time. Moving on to attendance at other meetings. Do any board members want to report on any attendance from other meetings? Okay. Moving on, presentations. We have the Aloha Festival's Floral Parade with Clint Kalaola from Kala Foundation.
Aloha, Clint Kalaola with Aloha Festivals. Kala Foundation was the parade coordinators for this year's upcoming 76th annual Aloha Festivals Floral Parade. Just wanted to let you guys know that there's going to be a parade coming through, if you haven't noticed, after 76 years, that we will be having a parade on September 28th. Parade kicks off at the Eva end of Ala Moana Beach Park entrance. Starts at 9 a.m. We go down Ala Moana Boulevard onto Kalakaua, down to Kapiolani Park where the parade ends. Road closures, coning will start about 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. 8 o'clock is where the first portion of Ala Moana area near the staging area will close down. 9 o'clock, about 8:45, between 8:45-ish, Ala Moana Boulevard will start to close down in preparation of the 9 a.m. start. Road closures will happen progressively as the parade approaches. Roads will be shut down. Roads will reopen the same way as the parade passes. Typically, it's the street sweepers followed by HPD. Roads will reopen. Typically, we're off the road between 12 and 1 p.m. With that being said, we look forward to you guys watching the parade. There's going to be about 100 po'u riders, 100 horses out on the road that day. There's going to be floats, decorated vehicles, and we're also honoring Miss Tony Lee, Antoinette Lee, as the Grand Marshal of this year's parade, as she's been running this parade for the last 15 years. She decided to step down last year, and you got me this year. Mahalo. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Kalaola. Questions, board? Member Chang?
Yes, will there be any flyers showing the parade route and road closures or anything along that?
That should be posted on alohafestivals.com, as well as submitted with the typical media, star advertiser, as part of the information that we get out with advance notice of road closures.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Member Chang. Community members, questions, comments? Okay, Mr. Kalaola, thank you for being here today.
Mahalo.
Honolulu Night Market with Summer Caster from our Kaka'ako, Olamana Loomis.
Hi everyone. I did share a deck to share. I'm happy to share screen if that's.
Yeah, Summer, you can do the share screen.
Okay.
Summer, you may be muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. I'm Summer Castor. I'm the Events and Marketing Manager for Olamana Loomis ISC. We're the agency of record for our Kaka'ako. And we have another Honolulu Night Market coming up on Saturday, November 2nd from 5 to 10. This event will be sponsored by American Savings Bank. It'll be an interactive cultural experience. We welcome ohanas from around the island. We're also going to be featuring over 80 food and retail vendors. So a wide variety of offerings here. Additionally, live performances from musicians, fashion designers, artists from across the island. So a really great opportunity to support the local community here. Definitely going to be a fun-filled evening. We're going to be having some street closures, so I wanted to make everybody aware of that. Oahe Street between Keawe and Coral from about 1 p.m. until midnight. Keawe Street from Oahe to Pohukaina, again from 1 p.m. to about midnight, and then Coral Street as well. Residential parking and building driveways will remain accessible. Just want to make sure everybody's aware of that. We are going to be promoting this in various ways. Posters around the community, also social media, and our webpage, our kaka'ako.com/HNM, where we'll also be having some giveaway opportunities. So definitely keep an eye out for those around October. Our Instagram handles are our Kaka'ako and HNL Night Market. And then I also want to just introduce Gabrielle Richer from Narrative Hawaii. She's a newer partner of ours. She's going to be taking over some of the event logistics for our community events and our Kaka'ako. She has great expertise. She's been around for a very long time in the event community. So Gabby, if you want to introduce yourself as well.
Aloha, everyone. I don't know if you can hear me or see me, but just wanted to say hello. I am a huge supporter of Kaka'ako and had worked on this portfolio with Olamana Loomis several years ago, so happy to be returning. I run a company called Narrative Hawaii. We do corporate, non-for-profit, community, and political events, and I'm really looking forward to working with you all in the months to come. Thank you.
Thanks, Gabby. Are there any questions about the street closures, the event as a whole?
Board member questions for Summer or Gabrielle? Member.
Hi, Summer. Thank you for presenting. Just a quick question for neighbors who live in that area.
Mhm.
I know you advertise like 1 p.m. to 12 midnight. Now, how quickly or how many hours lead time will you be actually putting up the blocks and closing down the street sides and whatnot so we can let our neighbors know?
So the actual infrastructure will come in around noon, but people will be able to drive through the area until 1 o'clock p.m. That's when we actually stop traffic.
Thank you. Vice Chair.
Hi, I own a business at the Coral Commercial Center,
Mhm.
which is 6 Oahe Street sandwiched between Keawe and Coral, and I operate that day. I'll need
Mhm.
access. Will we be able to get in and out of the center?
Yes, so the driveway on Coral Street will remain open. So our main stage is just in front of your driveway there. So that should still be a pass-through lane for you.
Will we be able to exit out the Keawe Street side or the Pohukaina Street side?
Pohukaina, you'll be able to exit.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, Vice Chair Rice. Any other members? Questions? Treasurer Mariano.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. My quick question is the event starts at 1700 or 5 p.m. It goes to 10, but just looking at shutting down the road starting at 1.
Correct.
Is it possible to maybe start the road closures around maybe 2:30. That way it gives the businesses around that area a little more flexibility with operating and also residents that's going in and out.
Mm-hmm. We do take into consideration the residents and the businesses. We've been doing this event for, I think, the last 4 or 5 years biannually. So this road closure timeline is pretty standard for us, and we haven't had any complaints, which we're definitely open to hearing. But for us, just the logistics of moving in over 80 vendors, setting up stages and things along those lines, we need as much time as we can get. But again, if there's any feedback after the event this time around, we're happy to hear it and adjust from there.
Thank you, Treasurer Mariano. Thank you, Summer, for that presentation as well.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Rice.
I'm sorry, I would like to just say one thing. If you can get the flyers to that area, Coral Commercial Center,
Or-
salt collection, Keaho, all those, put them in the windows, it'd be really, really helpful well in advance. I know I'd be happy to put them in my windows. So thank you if you can.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. We do notify Lisa over at Coral Commercial about our events, but if there are individual businesses that would like flyers as well, we're more than happy to provide those to you folks. But I'd love to connect offline. I think my email is on here as well, and we can definitely connect to get you some flyers.
Thank you for that presentation and for the questions, board members. Community, any comments, questions? Okay, thank you again for that presentation.
Thank you.
Moving on to HCDA 99-year leasehold program.
Thank you, Chair Lee, members of the board. Thank you so much for allowing us to present this evening. My name is Craig Nakamoto. I'm the Executive Director of the Hawaii Community Development by Deepak Nipane and Francine Murray. I think you both are familiar with all of you are familiar with Francine. So it's really nice to be here again this evening. You know, one of the governor's priorities is housing. And this evening, I'm not here to speak on behalf of the governor on housing, but to talk about another very exciting housing initiative that HCDA has been asked to help on. In the 2023 legislature, Act 97 established a 99-year leasehold residential program within HCDA. We were asked to develop or try to do a pilot program on state non-ceded lands to determine the feasibility of a 99-year residential leasehold product, for sale product. You know, to tackle housing, it's going to take a lot of different solutions. And if the 99-year leasehold product works, it'll be just another tool to address the housing shortage in the state of Hawaii. So I'm going to ask with that, I'm going to ask Deepak Nipane to present the program, and then we're open for questions. Thank you very much. Deepak?
Yeah, thank you, Craig, and thank you, Chair Lee and the board members. Speaking to a mic. So, Francine, can we go to the next slide? Technical issues. Okay, there. So as Craig mentioned, you know, the 99-year leasehold program, the condominium program was established by the legislature in 2023 by Act 97. So it facilitates the development of low-cost leasehold residential condominium units for sale to Hawaii residents on non-ceded state lands. So next slide. So a couple other things it allows HCDA is or asks HCDA to do is to, gives the power to sell leasehold interest in residential condominiums for 99 years. So it's basically a 99-year leasehold program. And the act authorizes for now just one project in urban redevelopment sites that will be selected by the HCDA board. It provided funding for pre-development study. So HCDA has engaged a developer, and we are currently working with the developer and coming up with due diligence in the pre-development planning, which would be, looking at all the transit areas, urban areas, and sites that can be developed, whether there is infrastructure or not for development. And also we are looking at things like construction cost, what would be the, it says low cost, and how low can the cost be brought down. It's a lot of those kind of analysis and all. And so we just, beginning of July, engaged the developer, so we are going through that. So it's going to take some time on that. And the act also requires HCDA to adopt administrative rules for the sale of the condominium units. Next slide. So there's some requirements for qualifications to be able to purchase these units. The household or the person has to be a qualified resident of the state as defined in Hawaii Revised Statutes 201-32, and it has definitions there. And you have to be 18 years old, or you have to have lived here, and all of that. It requires buyers to be owner occupants. So if you buy it, you have to live in it. And while you own this leasehold condominium units, you cannot own any other real estate property, whether residential or non-residential property. There's a provision in the bill that says that if you own something, some real estate property, you have to divest it within 6 months from the time that you close on the property. It prohibits rental and subleases, provides for HCDA the first right to refuse buyback of the unit. It provides for a transfer to, after if the person dies, to the heir, provided that the heir is a qualified resident again. And it provides exemption if in case there's a hardship. When for some reason you are not able to, hardship reasons, you are not able to live in the unit, then it provides for those kind of exceptions. If HCDA doesn't buy back the unit, then it has to be sold to another qualified resident again. So, but it can be sold at market at that point. And it requires, as I said, to HCDA to adopt administrative rules. Next slide. So HCDA board approved administrative rulemaking process in May of this year. We had a stakeholder and community meeting on August 13th. I think the video of that is on our website. The video of that is on our website. Of the community meeting that we had on August 13th. The community meeting we had at August 13th. No, it was just an informal meeting of community meetings. And I believe the board was notified, right? The neighborhood board was notified of the meeting. We are working at the draft rule, and we'll have another community meeting again when we have a draft, so we can share the draft with the community. And we'll be announcing that, and again, informing neighborhood board and interested stakeholders, elected officials, and all of that. So probably next few months. And I think that's about I have, right, last one. So thank you very much. And if you have any questions, either Craig or I would be able to address.
Thank you for that presentation, Member Iwamoto, and then Member Farinas.
Thank you for your presentation. So would HCDA basically control the condo association?
See one of them.
No, we're not going to control the condo association. You know, the idea would be, sorry. No, the answer is no. The idea would be to have establish, you know, a condo with a condo board, and have the condo board, you know, govern the operations of the condominium. Lease
So
of
but
condominium.
you'll be the originating
Uh,
association until more than X amount of units are actually sold.
we have a, go ahead.
So who initiates the contract with the first community association management company?
It most likely will be the developer. I think the way it would be done would be HCDA would retain a developer to develop the project. And it would be the developer that would put the condo documents together and all and start the association and hand over to the residents when they're at, enough residents in the project.
Okay.
So it would be like pretty much any other condominium building in town. So
Right. So the condo owners, just because it's leasehold, it doesn't spare them from the crazy fluctuation in assessments and huge rises in maintenance fees that are happening, knowing that, are they're income qualified to purchase these?
there is no income qualification. The only requirement is that it has to be
Resident and they don't own anything
They don't
else.
own any other real.
So these
real
are
property.
market rate. What
Uh,
price point are you?
The bill says, low cost, so it's going to be at the lower end of the spectrum on it's not going to be a true market price.
And then when they resell, can they sell it they can sell it at market, or is there a cap that they must sell to somebody at a certain income? Because I feel like we keep getting into that problem here where we give tax credits or we give some kind of permit that's connected to the developer being able to make a profit in some way. And then what happens is the initial buyer sells it and then the initial buyer makes a huge profit somehow, capturing the resources that on some level taxpayers kind of contributed to a certain degree. And so is there a mechanism to stop that funneling of taxpayer funds and resources to individual purchasers and then buyers?
Yeah, I think the genesis of the idea itself in a leasehold is that it's not going to be market priced, right? So it'll have to be discounted from market for a leasehold product to be viable. And that's right now, when you talk to developers and then real estate folks and all, we are hearing that discount probably needs to be about 20% or so of the market price as it is. So that's all by itself is going to be a mechanism that's going to keep the prices down from the market. So.
I think in reality, to sell a product like this, if you compare it to the comparable fee unit, it's going to have to be substantially less, price substantially less than the comparable fee unit to sell. So we're working with a developer now on that pre-development, and really price and how we get to the price is the key to this pilot program. Remember you won't. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Farinas.
Just a quick question, Mr. Nakama. I didn't quite hear. Seeded lands or non-seeded lands?
Non-seeded.
Member Mariano. And Member Chang, you had a comment too or no? Member Mariano.
Yeah, thank you. I have just a couple of questions. And, you talked about qualified resident. right? To be qualified as a resident, as an outsider, there's a minimum of what, 6 months? So if I'm an outside foreigner, want to come in here and I see this property and it's leased for 99 years, I can come here for 6 months, qualified as a resident, and then go ahead and make a purchase. I think you said also that the resident needs to live in the condo, but you didn't say what's the minimum amount of years that they must live in the condo so that you don't have someone coming in within 6 months, qualifying as a resident, buying the resident, staying there for maybe another year or so, and then sell it or start to use it as a short-term rental. I know.
Yeah, you cannot. Right now, I think the thought is that if you purchase the unit, you have to live in the unit as long as you own the unit.
And then the other questions that I have, you talked about affordability and you said the prices. One of the things that our board has been looking at is affordability. And so do you know how many of these condos are being projected for our area, Ala Moana, Kaka'ako?
Member Mariano, for this particular project we're working on, it's a pilot program. So we've been directed to do one project, either in Kaka'ako or somewhere else, on Oahu, on non-ceded state lands. So it's really a test to see if this is going to work. The last time residential leasehold was tried was probably in the 70s or 80s, and so this is a relatively new product that we're trying. So to answer your question, we've been asked to do one pilot program to see if it's going to work.
There's been leasehold, particularly in Ala Moana. I know a couple of leasehold that were 99, Hawaii Kai and all those. And so that's my concern. So is that a condo that's already been built or you're looking at building a condo?
We're looking at building.
Okay. So if you're looking at building, because one of the things that we have, and that's the TOD, the minimum height or maximum height is 250. And there's always been one exception that became a second exception. Now you look at Ala Moana, Kaka'ako, and they're all pretty much 400 feet. And, again, you're talking about leasehold. This is turning to be, from the standpoint, like Waikiki. There's nothing wrong with that because we can have more affordable housing. But my concern is, and we mentioned this at our neighborhood board, is the infrastructure. So I support the initiative, what's being done, but I would ask HCDA to have some consideration for when you're starting to build this pilot program that we don't go, for the max and say, let's get an exception, 400 feet. And then next thing you know is there's no price limit. And the locals is who we're trying to get housing for, can't afford it.
So Member Mariano, just by the nature of this product, there has to be a limit on a price. I mean, this cannot be priced, at the same level as a comparable fee unit, the for sale unit. So by its very nature, it's going to have to be at a lower cost than a fee. So there is going to be a limit on price. I heard your comment of height and density and all that. And when we pick a site for this, it's going to be a site where infrastructure supports that development.
Okay. So Madam Chair, as they go forward with this, you would like to have them to come and do periodic updates to the board so at least we can see what's going on with the project. Because if we're going to support this, we want to make it so that it's affordable for all locals, particularly in our district. All too many times we have people from outside the district coming in and it's pricing our residents out.
Thank you, Member Mariano. I think as this pre-development work continues, and once we select the site or work with the developers to select the site, and if that site is in Kaka'ako, then we'll come back and report to this board. Does that sound okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Member Chang.
Again, gentlemen, thank you for the presentation. My question is, I'm looking forward to your rules on how you're going to, how it's going to be managed. And so my only question is, who's going to enforce it? Is it going to be you? Is it going to be the association? Yeah, right.
The rule that HCD adopts is only for the sale of the unit. So the managing of the condominium is going to be the condominium's, the condominium board's responsibility. And they can have their rules and however, so.
I'm assuming those rules are going to be part of their documents as far as.
It'll be a document and that the condominium document would, guide the rules. I know that the bylaws are adopted by the condominiums itself, so we'll use the bylaws to regulate the management of the condominium itself. HCDA is not going to manage the condominium.
Well, the only reason I say that is, let's say somebody buys in, can't live there, or for whatever reason, it's either empty or somebody else is living there. To enforce these rules, associations going to have to pay some legal money to enforce these rules. And that's my concern, is that there's a rule in there, but to enforce it, if there's no other entity other than the board, for example, and let's say the board meets once a year, it's going to be very difficult for them to manage the situation. So I'm just asking.
Sure, no, I understand your question now better, I think. If you are talking about enforcing the owner occupancy requirement, then it is going to be at CDA. Hawaii Community Development Authority will enforce those rules. But the condominium, day-to-day running of the condominium is by the, condominium association.
Yeah, I understand that. That's why I said if there was somebody else other than the board going to be enforcing those owner occupant rules, I think it would have a lot more clout. So thank you.
And a lot of those things will be spelled out on the draft rule before we go to hearings.
Thank you. Secretary Davis.
Sorry, I'm just wondering if there's a record of what's ceded and not ceded land in our neighborhood, or if there's access to that, or if you could share that with us.
We can get that information.
It'd be great. Thank you.
Typically, DLNR would have that information. So.
Your link, I will. I can research it, but if you're able to share it, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Yeah,
President Mariano.
just a follow-up to Member Chang, because I live in a condo, and the running of the condo board is volunteer by owners. Then you have a property manager, property management that kind of runs that. And so the oversight to managing this 99-year lease really or someone else to govern that, because if not, it'll create lots of conflict of interest for the property management company or even the board, because if the board is the one that's going to be running most of the rules, the day-to-day, like the housekeeping type of things, I get that. But the how you implement this program, how this pilot is going to work, it has to be a means so that there's government oversight to ensure that there's no conflicts of interest that's being borne by AOAO associations or property management. You understand what question?
Sure.
Thank you, Treasurer Mariano. One more question from Secretary Davis.
I'll try, and I'll admit, I have a lot of areas to expand my knowledge in terms of all of the different, options there are for buying and funding sources. But what's the benefit of buying a leasehold property then, if the condominium association is going to run the HOA fees and everything, and there's no cap on that, right? So they could be spending money on HOA, and yes, they have ownership of the property, but they're also then going to be limited in how much they sell it for, because there has to be a cap on it. Otherwise, it becomes an out of control market value property. Yes.
I think, the limits on HOA fees, I think it really, some of the responsibility goes to the owners who sit on the AOA board, and they have to be vigilant of those, and also be vigilant of the the management company that's running it, and really protect their own interests. As to the benefits of owning a leasehold condominium project, I think one of the benefits is, and this is what the pilot will hopefully bear out, is that the price of the condominium can be lower than what you get in a comparable fee unit for basically almost a fee term. 99 years is a long time. It's as close to fee without a fee, right? Thank you, Member Davis.
Member Chang and then Member Farinas.
Promise this will be the last question. So the fee that's going to be established, the land's coming from the state or city?
You mean the HOA fees?
No, the leasehold fees. So I mean, they're going to have to pay a fee for the leasehold. So who are they paying this fee to?
And when we program, go through the due diligence, we might find out that there needs to be, say, annual lease or monthly lease that each owner will have to pay, and that will go to the state.
Okay.
But we are not there yet. I mean, we are crunching the numbers and see where it lands. It could be nothing to nominal.
Yeah, that's the point I'm trying to make when you're asking about affordability. If it's state land and the state says, we'll lease it for $1 a year or something like that. Yeah, then the price is going to be extremely low. So, but I don't think that's realistic, but I'm sure the state wants to get something for the land because they're the landowner. They're just leasing it to this project.
If I can add to Deepak's comments, Member Chang, I think one of the problems with leasehold in the past has been that some of those old leaseholds had rent renegotiation periods, right? Where the bank didn't know what the lease rent was going to be. The owners didn't know what the renegotiated lease rent was going to be. So as Deepak mentioned, no matter how we structure the lease rents, whether it's zero, minimal, or something else, I think what we would strive for is known rents that go from, year one all the way to 99 in terms of ground rents, because one, it gives owners, assurances of what their lease rents are going to be from year 1 to 99. Two, I think it adds to the financeability of when the banks know that there is a fixed and known lease rent, whatever it's going to be. Thank you, Member Chang.
Thank you. One more question from Member Farinas.
Thank you. It goes along with Member Chang. Now, one of the drawbacks of the leasehold is the annual ground rent. So did I hear you correctly? That is something that you folks will not be putting upon did I hear you correctly, Mr. Nakamoto?
No, I think that's something you did not. I think it's something that we have to determine after we go through the economics of it. But what you did hear me say is that what we're going to strive for is fixed and known ground rents from year 1 through 99. So you don't end up with a situation like some of the old, ground leases and leaseholds where you had a renegotiation period at year 25. So you didn't know what your lease rent you were going to pay. So we're going to try to make it fixed and known. And we haven't determined what that ground rent, lease rent is going to be. Did that answer your question, Member?
I mean, it's all fine and great with affordability, but once all of the fees get added up, all of a sudden it's really out of touch. I mean, the long and short of it. So I appreciate, the project and being the pilot and just hearing our concerns. And again, just making, Hawaii a place where us locals can live and thrive in our community.
Thank you, Member Farinas. I think in taking on this project that legislature assigned to us, we really wanted to try to be part of the housing solution and try to develop another product that could help with the solution. And maybe that will be residential leasehold, 99 years. Maybe it won't. We just have to test it out. And we won't know until we test it out. But we're excited to be part of the solution, Member Farinas.
comment from that.
One more question from President Mariano.
Just last one. Since you're doing this as a pilot program, I'm sure you're going to have some means to have a check and balance to find out how many years or months it'll take so that you'll say that this pilot is a success, so you can go on for something else. But here's a suggestion. We have a lot of locals, some of my families, and also some friends that left the islands because they couldn't afford. And since we're doing this 99 lease pilot program, affordability, is there something that you could do ACDA to look at to say, residents, you left because you couldn't afford it. Now's an opportunity to come back home, get into this 99-year lease property so that you can come back and live in Hawaii.
Well, remember, Freenis, you just did it. You told everybody to come back home, and once we start the sales for it, we hope that it's gonna. And that's one of the reasons for actually coming here tonight is to generate interest, in this program. And to your first point, I think it won't take a few months into the 99-year lease to know it's a success. I think I'm looking even before that. If we can go through this pre-development study, looks like we can sell units at the prices we're going to offer it, then I consider that we've been successful and close on these. So I'm thinking a little bit earlier we're going to know that we're a success or not. Thank you, member.
Thank you. Board members, community members, any questions for HCDA? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Nakamoto, Mr. Naupani, and Ms. Francine Murray for being here in person.
Thank you.
So we always say this as a board that we genuinely appreciate it when people anyone who wants to come in and build, more housing in the area comes in person. So we really appreciate you all being here this evening. So thank you.
I'm enjoying coming back in person. Thank you. Thank you.
Moving on, we had the Department of Transportation Services scheduled, but we will be moving them to our September meeting due to the representative having to attend to a family matter. Subdistrict reports. Do any board members have any reports from their subdistricts? Okay. It is now 6:59 p.m. We are moving on to residents and community concerns. Mr. Roy Howard will be up here to talk about pickleball at Moana. And thank you for being here.
Do you mind if I skip over this? You have, I think one said.
Yeah.
They actually send you.
So for our board members and community members reference, what Mr. Howard is passing out right now is also uploaded in our link, which is provided on the agenda.
Hello, everybody. My name is Roy Howard. I'm a 65-year-old retiree, Moana resident, and I play pickleball. I have some fellow pickleball players here, and what brought us here today, or me personally, is I wanted to get better at the game. I went over to Moana to start playing over there with other players, and the conditions are horrendous. And if you can see here, quickly we can go through how pickleball is just a growing sport. Anybody who's out there can see it, and it's growing exponentially. You can move on to the next slide. Notice tennis and pickleball. Isn't that interesting? Keep that in mind as we move along. Next slide. There's where we are. I think this is 2023. And it's just going crazy. Next slide, please. Health benefits of pickleball. Again, I'm 65-year-old and I'm running around like crazy. So it's helping me. I've lost a few pounds. Next slide. This is the conditions at Moana. And right now, there's 10 tennis courts over there. There's really 0 pickleball courts. We've been banished to the practice area where we have to draw out chalk lines and bring our own nets to play pickleball. So we have 0 courts, but we're drawing in 3. We bring our own nets. We chalk temporary lines. The lighting is horrendous because only one side is lighted. And we have to play into the sun. So when I'm playing against my friends over here and I'm facing the sun, I'm just doing this until sunset. And then it's a little bit better. Now there is one light on the windward side that's actually for the walkway that my calls finally got Parks and Rec to turn that on. But we need better lighting. Next slide, please. This is a timeline of when pickleball was actually banned. They were playing over there. A tennis player didn't like it for some reason. The police came. Pickleball was banned. That says it all, if you ask me. That's not aloha spirit to me. So pickleball was banned. We had 2,500 residents sign a petition to get it to the mayor and to Psyche at the time. So here's a timeline of when they allowed it back. Now we have permission to put in painted lines. Back in, I think it's February or March, we got the funds to do it. We got permission to do it, but it's in my opinion, stonewalled, but it's been delayed. This is something we need desperately today. I need it tomorrow. I'm going to play tomorrow. I need the painted lines in. So this is the timeline. This is what we're dealing with. And again, in my opinion, the roadblock is Parks and Rec for whatever reason. Next slide, please. Here's some pictures. Those are the pickleball players waiting to play with their paddles. Each one of these stacks is 4 players. So we have 8 stacks plus 2, plus the people playing on the court. We've got almost 50 people using that little area. While every tennis court, even if they were using 4 people, is less than what we have in that area. Remember that little chart about the tennis and the pickleball? So here's the people waiting to play. Here's the people waiting to play in that area. Please notice behind there is the adjacent tennis court, and there's no one on it. When I was there last Friday, because we play open play on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and I went and sat down, I played a game, went and sat down, and I see all these people, and I took a video and sent it to your board. There's no one in the tennis court. We desperately, desperately need that. Desperately. We could double the rate of participation at Moana Beach Park just with pickleball players. Next slide, please. So here's the chalk lines. It's not fair to the players either, because if you don't draw it straight, and they called it out when it probably would have been in when it was painted. So, you just got to realize that. And then here's the sun, here's the lights, there's the sun. That's what we're looking at until sunset. And then there's the 3 courts that are drawn in. Next slide, please. Term, what we need the pickleball line. It's simple. We can get it done tomorrow. Somebody please give us permission. We'll go take care of it. We need them painted where we're playing, and we need them painted in at least 2, if not the whole row of tennis courts on the Mauka side. We need to remove the tennis only signs. I don't even know if that's legal. How can they say it? You can only play tennis there. So we need those gone. And then we need to fix the broken lights. So there are some broken lights there, but we need some lights on the windward side of the area we're playing. The medium term, paint pickleball lines in those tennis courts, as I said, and convert tennis courts into dedicated pickleball courts. And then long term, let's get some of these developers to invest in Moana. with pickleball courts. Sounds to me like we're going to have investors here and we're going to have a higher population of people, which is only going to make it more necessary to have more courts. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Howard. Questions from the board?
Apologize. I'm also here to help out Roy with the questions. What happened with this?
Could you state your name, ma'am?
Yes,
please?
my name is Sue Eberhardt. My father lives in this area. He voted for you, Coco. Thank you very much. The timeline that was stated, it looks very, if you wouldn't mind going back to the timeline, what happened was back in, there was no dedicated pickleball courts, like there is no pickleball courts at Ala Moana. The Oahu Pickleball Association and other pickleballers have been playing there for quite some time without an issue. Someone had a problem, the police were called. Why, you can't work it out with, with amongst adults. What happened was after that, we got the 2,500 signatures petition signed. We met with Brandon Kono, myself, Kevin Chang, and Gary, and it was agreed upon that we were allowed back in and we would be able to donate from everyone and draw permanent lines. We have the funds. We submitted the declaration of gift of the pickleball lines to the Departments of Parks and Recs. And then thereafter, now mind you, that's March of this year. It's the end of September and we still can't get anything. We go back and forth to Representative Psyche, Councilman Say's office,
Madam Chair,
Department of.
point of order. You know, it looked like we're getting repeated the same information. Unless there's something more significant, can we move on?
Thank you, Treasurer Mariano. Member Iwata?
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. I don't know if anybody who's been here the longest, is this the first time pickleball advocates are so congratulations, you've reached, I think, a tipping point, right? It is significant. So thank you. What about the sun? I mean, so the lines will be painted, but somebody's still going to be facing the sun.
Yes.
That's why we want also the adjacent property. We have the time, we have people on.
Oh, to the mic.
Sorry. That's why we're asking for the area we're playing in now is really a temporary permanent fix.
Yeah. Okay.
Really, we need the tennis courts that are adjacent that don't face the sun.
Right.
That's why that's desperately needed this
For a
month.
different
Yes.
plot of land in Ala Moana Park that
Ultimately.
is just for pickleball or other parks.
We do
more
have other
parks.
places. To
Right.
There are other places to play in
And what
But
about
not-
the developers? So we've heard a presentation from Christine Camp about a development, I think. Did we hear it here? Well, she's doing a development in downtown and she's changing the Walmart potentially into pickleball courts that are covered and all that. Have you spoken to any of the Howard Hughes developers who
Yes.
are?
I've
and-
called Christine
and are
Camp
they-
and it's going to be indoors and the height because of the structure in the parking lot is very low. So it's not,
Oh.
it's not going to be outside and it's mostly for the residents there and for the HPU students
Right,
for
okay.
the proximity for downtown. But for the urban core, everyone goes to Ala
Yes.
Moana. And if you build the pickleball complex and the tournaments come here, the major tournaments come here, that can fund everything. So
Yeah.
the investments will take care of
And
itself.
how many pickleball courts do you need for a tournament that draws people?
At least 12.
Hmm.
Initially, but for
like-
the larger ones, they need 26, but 12 is for all the locals here. And it's not just for them, it's for the interscholastic schools, programs that you have. It's for the students.
Have you spoken to OHA? They have land.
Trust me, I called them. They will not, I called them over at Kaka'ako by
Yeah.
Reuse Hawaii.
Yeah.
I've called and I've asked them for that. No, they
Yeah.
don't. You have to pay. We're trying to get something and we're trying to get
Yeah,
donations and participation.
I
Trust
hear
me,
you.
we've tried.
No, that's great.
Member Chang and then Secretary Davis.
I'm just curious, how many pickleball courts could you put on a tennis court?
You can fit 4. It will be tight, but what we would like to do is we want safety involved for everyone. So what we can is one tennis court can actually fit 4, but that is a little bit tight. So we in the back, 2 tennis courts can be converted into 6 safely.
That would require That would require you to take down, like fully converted. So you'd have to take down the tennis net, right, to fit the third one in the middle?
The tennis net will be kept. The dividing fence in between the two tennis courts can be removed, and temporary nets in between can be done with minimal use. And we wouldn't even keep the tennis nets to divide the front and back. And it wouldn't cost much to change those into permanent. And permanent pickleball nets itself is under about $500, including the posts. It's the labor.
So that would be if 2 courts were converted, you go
Tennis
from
courts, yes.
10 tennis courts to 8 tennis courts. And then if 3 pickleball courts were put into the hitting area and then 2 courts were converted, you'd end up with 8 tennis courts.
Around, yes, 8 or 9.
8 tennis courts and then 9 pickleball courts.
It would be, if we converted 2 tennis courts, it would be 6. And then
Plus
the other
the
one
hitting
would be the 3 if we were facing this way, as opposed to 2 the other way would be 8.
Vice Chair Rice.
Just to finish my thought.
Go ahead.
I think it's a good idea, to be honest. I mean, I agree with you. I think pickleball is very, very popular. I've looked into it. My family's into it. I think tennis is on the decline, to be honest. I've gotten more injuries playing tennis, but I probably will get hurt playing pickleball too. I will admit that. But I don't see the harm in looking into it. And I think that I would go forward enough to draft a resolution for this board to have it considered. If it's not already done, it's already done.
Yes, we can provide
Okay,
diagrams.
so I would take a look at it, and maybe it's something we can bring up at the next meeting.
Thank you, Member Chang. Vice Chair Rice.
Hi, thanks for your presentation. I live across the street from the tennis courts. I see what goes on there. I hear what goes on there. I live at Hokua, and we have 1 tennis court. And what they did, I'm wondering if you ever considered this as an alternative, is because our building has a lot of pickleball players and a lot of tennis players, that they brought in a rolling pickleball net. So it comes out on wheels, and both games can be played on the same smaller, like you said, you can convert 1 into tennis court into 3.
Yes.
But that way it could all be shared, and it would be shared with whoever gets there first gets to play whichever tennis or pickleball, and all they have to do is roll out the net. The lines need to be painted, of course, and roll out the net, and everybody's happy. Have you ever considered that thought?
What? Go ahead.
So I'll let her finish after. First, I want to say you're my neighbor, and I can see your tennis court from where I live, and I can see the tennis courts at Moana as well. And we have a tennis court in my building, and we do that exact thing. So as a short-term, medium type fix, yes, absolutely. Let's get those things painted. We'll bring the nets and we'll use it. But that can't be the long-term fix. There's got to be a fix on that. But short-term, absolutely, that's what we're begging for.
Thank you. Secretary Davis.
No, just a few quick comments. I think just doing some of the math, even if you converted 1 court, got 6 courts, you'd be serving 28 pickleball players versus what you're currently doing now. And up to 9 courts, 36 versus even with a reduction in 8 courts, you'd still have 32 people being able to play tennis. And just based on the data off of your own spreadsheet, 1, pickleball, you're able to play for a much longer span of your life. I know that some people play tennis for a longer time, but I played and I currently play pickleball because my knees can't play tennis. And I'm 30. So just saying, like, I think wide scale of people that are able to utilize it or would utilize it is greater. And I don't see why we don't have half and half, especially if a lot of the courts are going unused for the majority of the time, which is how I observe them.
Exactly.
Most of the time.
Yes. And we don't want to waste any money. That's the whole thing. We don't want to waste taxpayers' money. We want to do it right. But at the same time, we'd like something for him tomorrow. That would be great. But we don't want to waste taxpayers' money.
Thank you, board members and Mr. Howard, and your presentation for today. I understand that you've already reached out to Speaker Saiki's office as well as Councilmember Say's office, and they have been responsive. So to wrap this up, can you just give us, and I know you had it in your presentation, can you just give us the solutions that you feel would be beneficial to
Excuse me,
your
Madam
cause.
Chair, I have my hand up.
Go ahead, Member Mariano.
I appreciate your enthusiasm for pickleball. I support that. But, and I also saw the, the presentation, but just kind of misleading in some of your statistics, because those are national statistics. My concern would be what's here in the Ala Moana Kaka'ako area for playership, because I know across the island, there's lots of parks that have pickleball that people play at, and just want to make sure we do the right thing, because this is something that we can take up, but not at this meeting, but we can take it up at the next meeting, put it on the agenda. But we need to have better statistics on that. But this also needs to be something that the Park and Recreation, that they need to take a look at. And the neighborhood board would be happy to, look at it, get the resolution going forward to introduce it. But I think this is a Park and Recreation thing, and then also to the city council for them to go ahead and not only fund it, but also make sure that there's maintenance on top of that, and also all the safety mechanism that goes along with that, lighting, tents, those screens, and all that goes along with making a safe pickleball environment.
So Sue here can speak more to what facilities there are out there. But I can tell you, and I invite you tomorrow, come and see what we deal with every week when we're trying to play pickleball over there. I live in a tower with this woman here next to me. I don't know, what is there, 1,000 person per tower? There's 10 or more towers. There's 10,000 people that can use Ala Moana pickleball. So if this is misleading nationally, that means Hawaii has more people, not less. So in my opinion. So there's the people out there. I personally have played with 11-year-olds and 9-year-olds at Ala Moana in that chalk as partners and opponents. It just needs to be understood. We're not even asking for the moon. We just want to be treated fairly, right? That's it. We just want to be treated fairly.
To your comments, I have been dealing, and we've both been dealing with Department of Parks and Recs. Randon Kono has been great. It's just that we are stuck. This gift that we're proposing to pay for the pickleball lines have been ping-ponging back and forth. And the reason why there's a single point of failure is that the Department of Parks and Recreation administration was on vacation for 2-3 weeks. And our gift is still sitting there. It's not going to Calvin Say's office. Once it gets to Councilman Say's office, it will be approved, and then it can go back, and then we can go ahead and paint. But this is 6 months going on here for something that should have been, it's very simple.
Really quick to clarify. Just to clarify, you're saying the funding for it is all gifted in donation. It's ready. You just need the okay.
The paperwork's in. The paperwork's in the mail.
Thank you for your presentation today, and I hope some of our legislators and representatives today can address that. I know Councilmember Say's office has been working closely with you folks, so thank you for your presentation today. Board members, thank you for your thoughtful questions as well. I want to go back to our agenda item with the Honolulu Fire Department since they just arrived. Thank you for being here this evening.
Thanks for coming, guys.
Oh, sorry for the delay. We were just kind of running behind and everything kind of just snowballed. Sorry about that, everyone. Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Captain Gibo, Engine 2, First Watch at Paua Fire Station. This is the statistics for July 2024. We went to 1 structure fire, 3 nuisance fires, 15 activated alarms, no fires. We also went to 159 medicals, 6 auto accidents, and no rescues. Our fire safety tip for the month is back to school fire safety. Educating students on what they can do to stay safe during the school year is important and often overlooked. College students living away from home should take a few minutes to ensure that they're living in a fire-safe environment. Don't overload outlets. Keep lamps, light fixtures, and light bulbs away from anything that can burn. Never use an extension cord with large appliances like a refrigerator. Cook only when it is allowed. Keep the cooking area clean and free of anything that can burn. If a fire starts in a microwave, keep the door closed and unplug the unit. If a disaster happens, knowing who to call and where to meet is an important part of emergency planning for you and your family. Pick one main contact locally and one contact out of town who may be easier to reach during a disaster. Does anyone have any questions?
Board member questions? No questions from the board members? Member
Just
Chang?
curious, while we're on the topic of pickleball, have you ever had pickleball call?
Actually, we just had a pickleball tournament fundraiser within our department for someone that was sick. Yeah, no, actually the turnout I heard was, quite catching on. And I know, like, especially at Waikiki Fire Station, a lot of the people now, they, it used to be a lot of basketball and volleyball. Now it's kind of like they got to kind of share the courts, and it's not just the firemen go out and play volleyball. They got to kind of pick and choose what times they can and or even cannot play, just to share the court with everybody else. Yeah, it's a public facility, so we're. It was down the west side. Yeah, it was for someone that was stationed on that side. Yeah, East Kapolei side.
Thank you for your report.
Sorry about the tardiness again.
Thank you, Captain Gibo, and your team for being here this evening. We appreciate you. Going back to our residents and community concerns, we have individuals who wrote in to talk about the no dogs allowed on parks and beaches. Yeah, go ahead now.
I'm sorry, I didn't know that I'm gonna talk. I thought I'd be sitting there listening to everybody.
Okay, thank you for being here. If you could state your name.
Estrelita Padilla, I live in Waikiki. I'm sure you all know, we all live in the apartment. And I was shocked when I saw this, no dogs allowed. I should have known, but I planned to move here 40 years ago. This is my dream. I'm a retired nurse, and I always have a dog. I live in the East Coast, and I always say, I can't wait to make it to Hawaii where I can walk my dog any time of the day, any time of the year. So here I am, 2018, I moved here, and like the leasehold, no, I want be simple. This is my end game with my dog. I'm so decisive. 1984, I was here first, and I said, no, I'm moving to Hawaii after New York. But anyway, bottom line is, can you imagine me getting up in the morning with my friend here? We see every day after I drop off my daughter to school, I go to Moana Park to work out and walk my dog. I take yoga with him next to me. And then all of a sudden I hear citation giving away $500 for having a dog. I said, did I make a mistake of moving to Hawaii? Where am I gonna play with my dog? Where am I gonna take my dog? It says there are no dogs allowed in parks and beaches. What are we gonna do? I mean, I need help to readdress this issue. There must be something we can do. There must be something like all dogs should be leashed. I'm fine with that. I've never seen an estate where there's so much strollers. I have a stroller with my dog and all the outfit, mind you, except the sunblock. But anyway, I know how much people love their dogs here. I just want to be heard. There must be something we can do instead of saying no dogs allowed. Because there's a guy who stopped us for the first time. I heard it months ago. Dogs are not allowed here. I said, my dog is 7-pounder wet. Okay, and all he does when he see people is roll over in the back because he want to be pet. I mean, does he pose a threat to anybody? A 7-pound? I told the guy, you have cats bigger than my dog here. They're not vaccinated. My dog has rabies shot and all. You have unhoused bothering us, and no one can do anything about it.
Ms.
Why
Padilla.
are you bothering us who has full? Oh, there was 1956. There's a girl that was attacked by a dog because the dog flew on her, and the dog the bird flew on her and the dog mistaken her and attacked the girl. That's 1956, sir. I mean, things are different now.
Ms.
We have
Padilla?
strollers for the dogs and all that. I
Thank
just
you.
want to be heard. I'm sorry.
Thank you so much for coming up today. Do we also have Ms. Teresa Aki and Ms. Lena Seo? Are you Ms. Teresa or Lena? Oh, can you?
Yeah, we just want to know what's the process in getting this changed. Do we need to do petitions or what do we?
Vice Chair Rice?
Hi, thank you for your passionate feelings and sharing it with all of us today. I have a dog. I live right across the street from Moana Beach Park, and it's shocking to me. What I learned 2 months ago is that there was a very well organized group of people who started dialing for no dogs. They called the mayor's office, pick up the phone, call the mayor's office. They called Senator Moriwaki. There is a petition on change.org currently right now where you can go and sign to support and get the rules changed. It has to be done the right way. I cannot tell you why this happened. I cannot tell you who these people are and how they got organized, but I think there's more dog lovers in Hawaii than dog haters. And if you're a responsible dog owner and you're walking your dog on the leash and you pick up after your dog, I don't understand what the issue is. Craig Nakamoto from HCDA, who was here earlier, and I have discussed this. I've brought it to his attention. I've asked for his help. And he has promised to talk to Laura Thielen at Department of Parks and Rec to see if they can identify a separate space at Ala Moana for an enclosed dog park. I said, that's fine, as long as you're allowed to walk your dog in the park to get to the dog park. So, I mean, that's an issue too. I think where the group that worked to not allow dogs in the park came from, and this is a very uncomfortable thing to say, is that there are a lot of homeless in the park during the day, and a lot of them, not all, have dogs, and they do not keep their dogs on leash. They let their dogs pee and poop wherever they want, but guess what? Nothing happens to them. But they're allowed to trash the park with their personal trash and their dog's trash. They go into the restrooms, they break the facilities once a week. It's half the time you can't even use the restroom facilities at the park because they're broken. And it's those individuals that are doing this. So I understand where the other side is coming from. And I also heard that somebody was attacked by a homeless person's dog. So that's on that homeless person. That shouldn't be made a rule for everybody, in my humble opinion. But go to change.org and yes, start a petition and get the petition to Calvin Say's office or Scott Nishimoto, who's coming in November, and get his support. And Tyler Santos, he's also been trying to work on something as well. His office, go to the mayor's office, pound them, have a march, have a walk, do something, get it organized, make noise. My background's public relations, and when you want to get something done, it's called make noise. Invite the media to come and be a part and cover what you're trying to do. But I think what's happened is and the other thing is that my understanding is that I have 5 friends who got $500 tickets. They're all walking their dogs at Magic Island in particular, 6:30 in the morning. So just avoid it if you can for now, but get the ball rolling. Yeah, I know. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Rice. Member Farringer online, and then Secretary Davis.
Hi, I'll be very quick. I apologize for not being there, by the way. I've been really trying to get to the meeting in person, but it's conflicting with my homeowners AOAO meeting every month, and I'm so sorry, everyone. But I am here, I am listening, and I want to point out too that in my sub-district, there's been many people who have also been cited and have spoken with me directly that, you know, what do we do? How do we change this? And so this is something that has really now come to a head, I think, and the community is very frustrated about it.
Thank you, Member Farringer. Secretary Davis.
Hi, thank you. I think kind of an ask of the representatives online too, in sharing any, you know, of the historic, you know, arguments that have been made against having dogs in parks, and if you guys can share where that some of that is coming from. I think I'm trying to understand. It feels like a very all or nothing scenario, and I think like how do we shift it more towards what's allowable, but also considers public safety, and again is enforceable. You know, we can make all the rules we want, but if it's not enforceable, we're back at square one. So how can we enforce it? And if it is, okay, it has to be on a leash, right? Which we're saying the people who are using the park correctly are doing so, then the fun towards people not using leashes. Like there are ways that we can not just have it be all dogs or no dogs. Like what's the in between there that makes sense for our neighborhood? You know, I want to hear more conversation about what that looks like and not yes or no, I think.
Member Chang.
Regarding that fine, you know, I know that there's a law out there that if your dog poops on the ground and you don't pick it up, they fine you not for pooping, you're fined for littering. That's actually what it says. So, and it's a $500 fine. So I'm assuming that's where that number comes from. But I agree with Member Rice and other people on the board. I used to walk my dog at Moana, but once they started enforcing it, I don't do it anymore. And I enjoyed that walk. It was my great afternoon walk, really nice time of day to go out. And it's supposed to be the park for everybody. I don't get to use it now because I walk my dog someplace else. There's not a lot of off-leash dog parks. I wish there were more. There is one finally in Kaka'ako, but it's not convenient for me to get there. And Moana is right where I live. So I agree with you. So what I'm saying is that there's got to be a way that maybe a portion of the park can be where we can enjoy ourselves and walk our pets. And like what Member Rice said, they're like family to us. So I understand what you're saying. I support what you're saying. I also support what she says. Let's get active and let's do the petition. Let's sign these things. Let's let our legislators know, especially council members know, that we don't like it. We'd like it to change. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Chang. Question from Secretary Davis.
Sorry, last thing. I just want to point out too that I think it's important to address the dog like enclosed park and dogs in a park as separate things. A lot of people have pets in order to get exercise themselves. Putting a dog in a dog park doesn't accomplish that same thing. Having people be allowed to walk their own dog and get exercise, and maybe again, here's a dog allowed route. There are so many different ways that we can address this without it being all or nothing. And I think there are so many creative ways we can make it possible for people to walk their dogs and for people who want to avoid that to do so.
Thank you, Ms. Padilla and Ms. Seo for coming today. So this is a platform for community members to voice their concerns. And we also have our public officials here. If you are unaware, we have Councilmember Say and Senator Moriwaki right behind you. So they will be giving the reports later. And as the board mentioned, maybe they can give some historical background on why legislation is how it is with the dogs at the park. So thank you for being here this evening. Other concerns not listed on the agenda? Go ahead, ma'am.
So my name is Diane Ige, and I am, excuse me, a resident here in Kaka'ako. I'm also in the minority. I'm a tennis player. So I just want to say one word on behalf of the tennis players. I'm a regular user of the practice court, early mornings, 3 to 4 times a week. And I have many other fellow players who also use that practice court quite frequently. And I know that the pickleballers are sort of forced to use that court at this point. We can share. I'm okay with sharing. I just don't want to get kicked off. And while we're at it, I don't want to get the tennis players relegated to the two courts where the walls are all hamajang and all beat up. And one court, court 10, had their wall fixed, and it took over a year. So if we could just not forget the tennis players while we're accommodating this growing sport. That's all.
Thank you, Ms. Diane Ige, for coming up to voice your concern. We also have Mr. Kane Ng Osorio from Mid-Pacific Roadrunners to make a quick announcement.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kane Ng Osorio. I'm here on behalf of the Mid-Pacific Roadrunners Club. And on Tuesday, September 17th, we're going to be putting it's partnering with the American Fisheries Society. They're going to be having a conference in Honolulu. And we're expecting 250 participants. We're going to set up at Magic Island at 5 in the morning. The race is going to start at 7, and we're expecting runners and walkers. So the race should get done at 8. We're in that process of getting our park permit, and we'll have HPD there as well, helping us with, there's 2 crosswalks. So it's basically one big loop around Magic Island and the whole park. And so as you're going around Moana Park, there's a crosswalk. So we'll be helping the runners and walkers cross the crosswalk with HPD, as well as we'll have volunteer course marshals there as well. So again, it's Tuesday, September 17th, 250 people. Many of them will probably be walking over from hotels. They're staying at Moana Hotel and a few other hotels, the Prince, and the conference, again, will be in town. So that's basically it. We just wanted to let you know that we'll have that race on a weekday, which is unusual for a 5K.
Thank you, Mr. Ng Osorio, for being here this evening.
Thank you.
Any other concerns, community concerns, in person or online? Okay, moving on to our agency reports. The time is now 7:39 p.m. We have Ms. Francine Murray in person, so this is exciting. Thanks for being here this evening.
Aloha, Chair, members of the board, and community members. I'm Francine Murray from the Communications Department at HCDA, Hawaii Community Development Authority. I put a link to the newsletter in the chat, and it features, well, it highlights a cancellation for a public hearing that we were going to have on September 4th. That's for the Kalailoa Master Plan and Rules amendments and proposed amendments that had to be canceled because we received so many community concerns that we want to address all of those and submit another draft for the community to review. So we'll keep everyone updated with the new dates for that. It also features Howard Hughes at the Moana elevated pedestrian walkway. They're expecting that to be finished sometime in September. We're hopeful. But much like HCDA, everyone's been experiencing global supply shortages and delays. We've had so many shortages in supplies, well, so many delays that it really affected our dog park. So when we finally got the lighting in, so we can have the dog park open at night, we drilled holes to install it. We had the archaeologists there, and they hit water in 4 different places. Everything had to stop. It's the main reason why we're so delayed. We brought in engineers and so they had to redesign. They had to do soil samples all over the park, make sure that it will be secure and safe for people compact. They had to redesign where they'll put the lighting. And now they're working, now that that redesign is complete, they're working on installing lights. Then we do cement pour and the sod for the grass. So I just wanted to let you know that we have those updates and those delays. Yeah. Any
Thank you,
questions?
Ms. Mary. Questions from the board for HEDA? Member Farinas.
Oh, yeah, we're also installing a children's playground on the Mackay side of Koluwalu Park. That work began last week. They put up the fencing, but well, we were preparing for a hurricane wind, so it was a little delayed. But tomorrow, the city and county is coming to help remove the playground because they're gonna repurpose those parts. A lot of it is still good, and they don't make that anymore, so some of it they're gonna use to fix their other playgrounds. Yeah. So that will be happening tomorrow. Then after that, we'll pour cement and then we'll put in the safety turf. Any other questions?
Thank you for being here. It's so nice when we can have you folks in person.
Thank you.
My quick question regarding the delays in the project. Whenever there's a delay in the project and pushing back the date, how has that affected the budget?
I don't have the answer.
Are you
to that.
folks like on spot on with the budget?
I
mean,
think we're
no.
still okay as far as budget. Craig, our executive director had put in a cushion. I think we're still okay. But if that's different, I'll send the email to chair.
Thank you.
I'll get that answer.
Member Iwamoto.
Thank you. So so I think you mentioned the renovations to Kolowalu Park.
Yes.
So I got a complaint about the Nara tree that was like not just removed and for replanting somewhere else, but it was actually demolished. It was in fact, I'm hearing you say it's infected. Was there, is that true? Was it infected?
Sorry, I don't know. I know it was removed. I don't know why, except.
Oh, okay. So I think there was a communication glitch. People have profound relationships with trees, especially mature trees, and I know they're on the city and counties. There are lists of exceptional trees throughout Honolulu County, and they're on there, and not, some of them are Nara trees. So I think it's important that we let people grieve, or we notify them, like put a big sign on this tree saying this tree is infected. We will not be able to move it. We need to actually demolish it and make sure that the disease does not spread. But I think we need to do more with communicating with the people before they start having these reactions and
Agreed. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Member Iwamoto. Any other questions from the board? Member Chang?
I have a question. How did that tree get removed? I have one right around where I live that I've been trying to get removed for 3 years now.
Sorry.
So I'm not gonna let up on this until this tree gets done. It is infected. It's termite ridden, but they won't remove it. So I'm just of it. How did you get the tree removed?
We're working with the city. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
Me too.
I can ask.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Chang. And thank you, Ms. Francis-Murray, for being here this evening.
Thank you.
Honolulu Authority for Rapid Transportation, Hart.
Hi, Charlie, board members, members of the audience. My name is Johnny Reed. I'm with Hart. Part of my voice, all my tests were negative, but I'm positive something is going on with my throat, and I apologize for all the voice cracking. Also attending with me online virtually is Mr. Patrick Watson. Patrick Watson is representing Frank V. Coluccio Construction Company. It's the contractor doing Hart's downtown utilities relocation work. So Hart is a public transit authority tasked with the planning and the construction of the Honolulu Rail Transit System. The rail transit system called Skyline is the first fully automated, driverless, light metro urban rail system in the United States. And it is the largest public infrastructure project in the state of Hawaii. Wanted to cover a news release that you may have seen that Hart released in mid-August. Hart announced the award of a contract for the design and construction of the next segment of the Honolulu Rail Transit Project, referred to as the City Center Guideway and Stations, or CCGS contract. It was awarded to Tudor Perini Corporation at a contract price of approximately $1.66 billion. The contract is expected to be executed in mid-September, so coming up real quick. The CCGS contract will include the design and construction of the 6 stations, approximately 3 miles of elevated guideway, beginning just east of Middle Street and ending at the Civic Center station located just east of the Halekuila Street and South Street intersection. Excuse me. Project design will begin immediately after contract execution, and start of construction is estimated in the second half of 2025. Construction of this segment will be completed in 2030. Tudor Perini Corporation is based in Los Angeles, California, and is a leading civil, building, and specialty construction company offering diversified general contracting and design build services agencies all throughout the world. Tudor Perini has established a strong reputation of executing large, complex projects on time and within budget, and while adhering to strict quality control measures. The award of the CCGS contract is expected to release the next $250 million in federal funding to HART under the amended full funding grant agreement, which was executed in February 2nd of 2024. The original FFGA, signed in 2012, provided a grant of $1.55 billion for the Honolulu Rail Project, and HART has previously received approximately $931 million under this grant. And in the interest of time, I'm going to cut my report there. I know we have a 3-minute window for agency reports, but for additional information on the Honolulu Rail Transit Project, we have a project website, www.honolulutransit.org. We have a 24-hour project hotline, 808-566-2299, and we have e-blasts that go out every Monday if you want to learn and keep up with the latest about our project. So pending that, Patrick and I are here for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Board? Member Treasurer Mariano?
Yeah, thank you for the report. I've always had a concern with HART. You got these rails, the rails coming across. I think it's pretty good. But my concern has been 2 things. Again, it's life safety, for emergency response. But the other one that's most important is park and ride. In this new section here, are there going to be any place for park and ride? Because if there's no place to park and so that you can ride the rail, then you're not going to have ridership. Right now, it's happening, from Eva up to the stadium. Not too many people riding it because there's no place for them to park their vehicle so they can park and ride.
Thank you for the question. So I'll answer them in reverse order. So as far as parking rides, there are no additional parking facilities planned for the rest of the project. There's parking lots at the west stations, and you're right, it only goes to Aloha Stadium from East Kapolei to Aloha Stadium currently. End of 2025, end of next year, the plan is to have the next section turned over to DTS and then open up ridership to Middle Street. Once we get to more destinations, DTS and HART both anticipate increased ridership. DTS, Hitachi, we're working with all the first responders. We've done large-scale exercises, which are publicized in the news. We did one in October a year or 2 ago, where we simulated a train derailment where the train just parked on the track and simulated all the first responders' interaction with different agencies to evacuate the train. We had another one earlier, actually not too long ago, in Aloha Stadium. They simulated an active shooter situation. So we do have first responders integrated with our Rail Operations Center and DTS and all of our agencies. And one thing you might notice if you drive on the ground level between East Kapolei and, in fact, coming up to Middle Street, you'll see the column numbers, or they call the pier numbers, on the signs on the columns. So those are for general public to kind of identify if you see a situation. Not everyone knows intersections on streets, but they might see a number that says column 500. That'll help people on the ground level know that there's something maybe above that needs to be addressed. And that's something that came in through the course of just safety planning and working with the agencies. So I hope that answers the question. I know the ridership, we'll get there once we have more destinations. And that's why we're trying to keep on expanding out to get more serviceability to the residents.
Thank you. Vice Chair Rice.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for the information and the updates. However, I don't think you answered Member Mariano's question is the park and ride need. I grew up in New York and I lived in LA, and the LA says they all have parking lots at the stations. So how many stations currently are there parking lots for people to leave their vehicles and hop on the Skyline?
3, Aloha Stadium Station has a parking lot. There's one at the Ho'opili Station, and UH West Oahu has a parking lot as well.
So is there anything on the books to create parking lots at any other stations?
Not currently. There was a Pearl Highlands parking facility that was deferred due to cost evaluation with the amount of stalls and the cost it would take to build it. But that's not currently, I guess the effort is not all the way behind that right now. But as far as the concept of the rail, so DTS, the bus rail integration plan, and HART, these are all devised to help have the buses be feeders to the rail stations. So for bus to the rail transit center to do a lot of the long distance driving, that in theory eliminates the need for vehicles and cars to drive your car to the station just to catch the rail. You catch the bus, which is integrated, and the schedules are aligning as DTS has maybe made presentations to this board to have buses integrate to the station to eliminate the need to drive to a station in the first place. The kind of bees to a beehive where the feeder buses would bring you to the station. That's the concept for that.
That's wrong way of thinking. Totally wrong way of thinking. You go to LA, you go to Seattle, you go to other jurisdictions on the mainland, they all have parking lots. And I don't want to get on the bus. I want to be able to drive because when I come home from work, I may have to go to the supermarket. I may have to go to the drugstore. I may need to pick up my kids. I may need to pick up or take my dog somewhere, whatever. You're not making it convenient for the public to utilize Skyline. And that's why the ridership is low. And it's been written about, letters to the editor of the newspaper have been posted. This is a huge mistake and someone needs to fix it because otherwise you're just going to have a train to nowhere.
Well, so when the stations are built, if I might address that, there is lots of development that's happening around the stations as they exist. If we're in a different area where the build out already exists and we're building a train station through areas like Singapore and other countries where it's built in the other direction, we can have a transit system integrated to all these shopping centers that already exist. But what we're doing now is building the rail system, and developers are coming in and building around that. So that the destinations will start popping up near the stations, and that's happening on the west side. Go ahead, please.
Sorry. Okay, that's great. But what about the people who are not going to live close by a block from the rail station? They live up the hill in Aiea and they want to catch the train. They're going to drive because there's no bus that goes up the hills in Aiea. So then they have to drive to catch a bus, to catch a train. Let's think logically and have conversations with the communities that you're trying to get on the rail to come to town. I want to say something that I feel is extremely needy. Waikiki. Most of the line employees, the housekeepers, the gardeners, the cooks, all the people that do the whatever, I come from Hilton, 40 years with Hilton, grunt work, so to speak, back of the house staff. They don't Waianae, Makakilo, Waipahu, Wahiawa. They don't want to take the bus to catch the rail wherever they are able to catch the rail from Wahiawa or Waipahu. They want to drive. If we don't fix this, there aren't going to be employees in Waikiki anymore. And the golden cow that feeds the state is not going to have the tax dollars to be able to improve everything on Oahu and statewide. Waikiki is the cash cow for this state and everybody knows it. And the fact that the rail isn't coming to Ala Moana, okay, we're living with that for right now, but hopefully it'll come and hopefully it'll get to UH, which was the original goal. So whoever's doing all this thinking isn't thinking clearly, and you've got to make the train go where it needs to go. You've got to have parking lots and you've got to help the people get on the train. Then the cars will come off the road. Nobody wants to ride a bus, but the train is kind of cool and exciting. So make it available for them by providing parking. Find the parking. buy the land and create a parking lot, multi-tier level parking lots, and you'll get your ridership.
Thank you for your comment. I can, I don't speak for the whole agency, but if the city and county and the council provides funding and allows more purchase of land for
You got
parking lots,
$1.6 billion.
and then that is correct. That's for the contract award for the guideway and station contract that's coming up.
So Treasurer Mariano and then Member Davis.
Okay,
Member
not to,
Yamamoto.
I agree with everything Member Rice mentioned, but I just want to add something. Even as a compromise, as a compromise, if you can't have a park and ride, at each station, you should have a place where people can drive in, wait for a short time frame, drop off, and pick up. And right now you can't do that. And then so what you're doing is you're cluttering the neighborhood. You're cluttering the businesses. So there's no common sense in making it so that ridership would be something that everyone can utilize. I understand the system. And that's something that Mayor Fossey had talked about many years when he started this. But if the fact remains, I don't think, and maybe something you can bring back to Hart. Hart needs to also talk with Department of Transportation and then also look at some of these new bus routes that they're making changes to the bus routes, that making it inconvenience for ridership as well. So if you're looking at the rail and you're looking at the bus as a means to have people going to and from so they can have increase the ridership, you have to have some coordination, you have to have communications, and you have to have a common sense solution. Thank you.
Secretary Davis and then Member Yamamoto.
I understand a lot of, the thought behind it too, but I personally have to disagree. I think, public transportation in and of itself, you shouldn't need a private vehicle in order to participate in it. And I think that's the overarching goal of a bus connected train system. And yes, it might not exist on the mainland, but across Europe, you won't find parking lots nearly at all unless you're in a very small town where people have to drive a ways to get to the train and the train is connecting you to larger cities. But in our situation, we would need a larger parking lot in Kapolei or somewhere like that where the train doesn't connect all the way out to Waianae, where a lot of those workers are coming from. And the encouragement would be to park and then ride from there. But along the route, you're going to need smaller and smaller parking lots because most of that influx is coming in. It's not going out. So we don't need large parking lots in town or in the areas closer to where the train is going. Right. So, I think it makes sense to maybe look at a couple in a decreased size on the way in so that it can service those people. But I also think, again, an interconnected bus and train system is a true form of public transportation. And if people aren't riding the bus or don't want to ride the bus, let's find out why. Okay. Yeah. And, if we can figure that right.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo what Member Davis said, which was I've lived in the Bay Area and New York City, and whenever there's rail leading people from the suburbs into the urban core, in the urban core there's never any parking lots but further out in the rural areas where they're bringing in workers, there would be park and ride situations like BART. But never in the civic center stops in the Bay Area is there that kind of parking.
I agree with that thought, but I'm a Long Island girl. Okay, I took the Long Island Railroad into Manhattan every day for school and then ultimately for work. There was always places to park your car. I'm not talking about urban core. I'm not talking because the whole purpose is to get on the train and come into downtown Moana, Waikiki. So you don't need the parking lots there because you're on the train, you get off. And the studies that I heard way back when was that if you have to walk more than a half a mile from the train station to where it is you need to go, you're not going to get on that train. And that's what's happening. So it's a double-edged sword, unfortunately, but we do need the parking lots out in the rural areas. Kapolei, Eva Beach, Pearl Ridge. They can partner with Pearl Ridge, give them a deal for parking at Pearl Ridge and give them an incentive to go shopping when they get off the rail and their car is at Pearl Ridge. There's lots of ways to skin this cat, but you got to make it usable for people to use skyline. Thank you.
And if I may add one more thing to Board Member Mariana's mention about the parking rides. They do have parking rides or kissing rides. If you're not familiar with those, there are places where you can drop off passengers and wait to pick up. So in addition to the parking lots at UH West, Ho'opili Station, and Aloha Stadium, there are kiss and ride features built into the West Lock Station, so you can, drop off your passenger, give them a kiss, and hopefully they kiss you back. Pearl Ridge, there's a parking lot on the Mauka side next to Pearl Ridge Terrace's apartment. So those are integrated, and the Waiava, the Pearl Highland Station. So those are kind of integrated as a drop off, and they're very close to the bus stops as well. So I just want to make sure that is addressed as far as so.
Thank you, Mr. Johnny Reed and Mr. Patrick Watson for being here. I think at some point down the line, we'll have a more in-depth discussion with our board on this. So board members, thank you for your feedback. And I hope you are able to take that back as well.
Sure. Yep. We'll do.
Thank you so much. Honolulu Board of Water Supply, do we have a representative from Board of Water Supply? Okay, they have their written report online. Elected official reports. Representative from Governor Green's office. We have Miss Ashton Stallings.
Hello, I'm Ashton Stallings. I work at the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs, but I serve as y'all's governor representative, and we recently hired another communication specialist. So I'm going to let her introduce herself, but we'll both serve as points of contact for you guys.
Hello, I'm Kayla. I'm also with the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs, and I will also be serving as the governor's rep along with Ashton.
So you get two of us now. Yay. I also saw that I was moved up in the schedule, so I'm going to take that as a good sign that you guys love me so much. But I put a link in the chat to the governor's August newsletter. There's also some paper copies out here if you're interested. Check it out. It's always great information. As we all know, August was the anniversary of the Maui wildfires, so there's material on that in here, as well as the governor signing new bills, housing projects, things like that. So if you have any questions regarding that, please let myself or Kayla know. If you have any questions tonight, we're here, so the floor is open.
Thank you. Board? Community members? Hey, Ashton, Kayla, go ahead, Member Mariano.
So you heard some of our concerns tonight on the board. You've heard some of the residents. Some of them is at the city level, but also at the governor's level. So if you can take that back, particularly we're concerned about the 99-year lease and some of the concerns that you heard earlier to the governor, and let him know that we're concerned about it.
Of course, and just to let you all know how the process works, I do fill out a report after each one of these, so I am taking the information, absorbing it, and reporting it back.
Thank you, Ms. Ashton Stallings and Kayla, for being here this evening. We have Mr. Ben Sullivan from Mayor Rick Blangiardi's office.
Welcome, Mr. Sullivan. You're going to be in the hot seat.
In the hot seat. That's where I like to be. I have copies, hard copy of school distribution here, 2 pages for each of you. 4-page newsletter. Pickleball. How many parking spaces can fit in a pickleball court? That's the question I have. Just one. Right, because I guess what I was doing the math, like kind of looking at Google Maps and thinking about Moana Beach Park, and I was thinking, what has more space than either dogs or pickleball or tennis? And the answer is parking, cars, right, with nobody in them, just sitting there, private assets that we pay for publicly for people to store. Interesting juxtaposition. Anyway, I'm not going to give a lot of detail tonight because I gave you the newsletter and it's available to anyone online. I apologize that I'm not on Zoom because otherwise I'd put it in the chat. But the one thing I do want to spend a minute talking about is Mayor Blangiardi's continuous efforts to provide services to houseless folks around the island. So as you may know, the Leahi Medical Respite Center opened near Diamond Head, and that provides 20 beds. That was opened earlier this year. More recently, the A'ala Respite at 445 North King Street is opening, and that provides another 60 beds for folks. And this is to get people off the street, get them cleaned up, get them medical attention as they need it, and hopefully transition them into longer-term housing. And so these are all facilities that help us with this really critical problem, which is helping people get off the streets, helping people, right? People in our community who don't have a home to get off the street, to get healthy, and to find something where they can live in a much more humane way, and they can build their life again and get back to where they might want to be. Another facility that opened this year, Waikiki Vista, emergency shelter and transition housing for families, opened in July. So that's positive news. The Iwilei Center will open later this year. That's another 100 beds. Of establishing 1,000 new beds for people between January 2024 and January 2025. And I will say, as I'm the Deputy Director for the Office of Climate Change, Sustainability, and Resiliency, and our office looks a little further on the horizon. We look at really long-term issues, but I'm very proud of the city team and the work they're doing to try to help the community. This is a really, really difficult issue for all of us, and we are making progress. And so it's still there. We see it every day. We know how difficult it is for people, but I just want to share some of that positive news and say, thank you all for the support. Mayor appreciates it. He really knows this is an issue that's important to everybody, whether it's somebody who's in the unfortunate position of being houseless or somebody who's trying to, wanting their community to be a way that it used to be, and maybe discouraged by the trash or by the situation. So we're doing everything we can. There's a few other things in the newsletter. I welcome you to look at those, but I'll take any questions. And we do look forward to having a robust discussion next month with Renee Espiau, who is from the Department of Transportation Services, to talk about complete streets. And I know that's an important issue that's come up before, so we'll look forward to that. I'm sure that there will be notes in Camilla's report that address the question of pickleball and other items. And so really welcome those. And I imagine there'll be some questions that the departments can provide answers to, but I don't have anything else for you tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Member Umoto.
Sorry, thank you so much. The Queen Street, right before the ballots arrived, there was an announcement, we're going to fix Queen Street, we're going to spend $5 million.
Yep.
And then come to find out, fixing just meant doing a thin coat of asphalt and drawing lines. I don't know, there's a lot of neighbors who thought there was going to be drainage put in, possibly, maybe sidewalks. But all that $5 million got us was a little asphalt and new paint. What more are we expecting? Because it looks like all the construction equipment went away.
So it's a great question. I don't have the answer, but we can put it in the notes and I can find out. I do know that repaving streets is an expensive endeavor.
You know all this.
Oh, I'm not telling you my
Thank you, Member Rice.
It's my understanding from the press release that was information from HCDA. So yes, they just put a cosmetic cover over Queen Street, which looks great. And it's sure nice to ride on it because I do it every day. But it's my understanding they're going to be curbs, they're going to be sidewalks, they're going to be drainage. And it's just the process that we're in at the moment.
Weird. I didn't know you do drainage after you do that.
Well, this is a temporary thing because it's all going to be dug up again so they can do what they need to do with the drainage.
Got it. In terms of Ala Moana Beach Park, do I remember that there's some kind of like bocce ball courts? And what is happening with that? And if no one's playing bocce ball, but instead playing pickleball, and there's so many trees in that area, can they turn, a dog park, can they turn that bocce ball court area into shaded pickleball courts?
So as you know, I'm not able to respond directly to your question because I'm not from the Department of Parks and Recreation, nor am I the director for the Department of Parks and Recreation. But I appreciate the question and certainly.
And you are our link to
yes,
that
I am your link.
office.
I'm your link. So I take your question to be what are the opportunities for pickleball broadly? But if you want to specifically ask about the bocce ball courts.
Yeah, who's using it? Can it be a dog park or pickleball court? Something, at least one of our situations.
Okay, so perhaps this can be kind of a sub question, Camilla, that we include to our DPR colleagues.
Also, one last thing, in terms of restrooms being open, so I know after COVID, a lot of bathrooms are closed. So are now all the Parks and Rec bathrooms open? And instead of and keep replacing toilets with breakable toilets and breakable sinks, why are we using prison grade toilets made out of metal and prison grade sinks made out of metal? I don't understand why they need to be, just like so destructible. They have indestructible options.
Okay, noted. Thank you. The same answer applies, but I do appreciate the inquiry.
Thank you. Member Mariano.
Yeah, let's encourage and congratulate the mayor for us. Encouraged prior to the election that he went around, started to have these town halls. And I would encourage that he continues to do that, because as you could see tonight, and also at other neighborhood boards, residents, they can set up an appointment with our elected officials. But the neighborhood board is is a ground truth where residents can come in and voice their concerns unvetted. And so that's what the mayor, is starting to do at the town halls. So I would encourage that, he continues to do that. And then also once in a while, invite him to come to our neighborhood board. So our first invite, to have him come here, and then so he can speak to the residents here. And we'll put out advertisement in advance to have that. And then lastly, as you heard some of our concerns, I'm still concerned about the infrastructure here in Ala Moana, Kaka'ako that needs to be addressed. The more high rises that's coming up, that's being completed in these narrow roads, the traffic calming or these so-called speed bumps, that's really not speed bumps. It's not doing what it's supposed to do. The other thing is the fire HPD. We need to have more aggressive, so that infrastructure for first responders can take care of the community here in Ala Moana, Kaka'ako, particularly as you see now all along Kapilani Boulevard, up in Pi'ikoi now, coming down Pensacola, but mainly around this Ala Moana area. These high rises are creating a traffic combustion. And if you ever drive during peak periods, and even now weekends, from Kapilani up in Pi'ikoi to get to the freeway, it will take you 15 to 20 minutes, where it used to take you a minute and a half. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. And we appreciate you listening to our concerns as well. I know you were instrumental in getting DTS coming next month, so thank you. Member Davis.
Really quick comment. I know, there's been a lot of progress in the expanding services for homeless. And I know we submitted a resolution as well for what happens between, that people experiencing houselessness and getting into transitional housing, because everybody, and with the Supreme Court's passing of it now being legal to arrest people who are sleeping on the streets. I don't know where we're at as a state in terms of doing that, but I know the Supreme Court, it's now, or they've allowed it. I know Member Rice shared that with us. I don't know what's happening with that, but I just, again, want to come back to this idea of the more we move people around, the less stable and routine there is, and the less likely they are to find routine that helps them get to a place where they can move into transitional housing. And I think this idea that we just keep pushing people around because it's not illegal, but there's also nowhere where it's legal to stay and be while they're waiting for that transitional housing. So that was kind of, again, the purpose of that resolution. And I'm curious to know how that's, either interworking, or is it dead, or, what's happening in terms of that from the mayor's perspective.
So I can't comment on your resolution, but I will say that, we did have, as you recall, Director Kaka'ako come and speak to the board a few months ago, and he talked about some of the approaches that he's taking. And I just shared what we're doing in terms of the respite facilities, which are really the facilities where people come off the streets and they need immediate care, which is specialized, requires medical attention. We are getting assistance from the state, and there's a really great partnership there. But I think it's not a one-to-one, as if everyone who is on the street wants to be off the street, and that's one of the challenges. And I think Director Kaka'ako commented on that. If that were the case, then we would just need to build more, and it would be solved. But ultimately, there's a lot of people that do not want to come in and be assisted. And so right now, we're just building facilities and receiving those who want them, and we recognize there's a shortage, and that's why we're building more. But I really can't give you more than that, other than The short term is a priority, and there's certainly a lot of work being done and money being spent on long term. I was just at a meeting today looking at Ibilay Center and all the activity that's going on there. So there's really a lot of effort on both fronts, but it's a difficult issue, and we certainly don't deny that.
Yeah, I know. I wanted to, I keep forgetting about this. Just point out too that, one of the things that we find with people resisting to enter shelters is that there's a lot of stipulations and rules around it. And again, something that's an in-between can help people transition from where they're at now. Housing situation. And I think, we see a lot of failure in that because those systems and routines and supports are not in place along the way. And it's a really quick switch. And, unfortunately, people end up back out on the streets because they can't maintain that. So again,
Sure.
For a really full, multi-tiered system of support, I'm wondering about what that bottom layer is.
Sure.
Thank you. Appreciate you being here this evening, Mr.
Thank you. Good night.
Council Member Calvin Say, who is here this evening.
Good evening, and let me start off by saying thank you very much for the wonderful discussion this evening. For those who have first time attending the board meetings, it's a forum that I think all of you should be here every month. I would like to respond to some of the concerns that were brought up in regards to the pickleball. I believe we did have some discussion the past 3 years, and with the okay from the parks in regards to utilization of some of the tennis courts. I didn't get anything from the organization in regards to the petition. That's number one. And I'll go back and tell my staff if they did receive the petition. Number two, the gift to the Department of Parks and Recreation, I was not aware of it also until it's approved by the Department of Parks and Recreation. With that, a resolution will be submitted by request for the city to accept the gift. Okay. The other topic in regards to dog leashes, I apologize. I've got to go back to 2016 to determine why the city council enacted that ordinance in prohibiting dogs in the parks. If I recall, in my research that my staff did, it was adopted in 2016, prior to my time being in the council. I beg your pardon? That's why I'm doing the research. 2016 is before I even got to the city council. And this is a city matter. For the members who are here this evening, I'm not pointing fingers, but it was the state that made the request to the county to accept all roads in Kaka'ako. I'll be very honest with you. I did tell the director of DTS, Transportation Services, do you think we can afford to accept it? And I'm not criticizing any of the state, Craig Nakamoto or the other person, but that's the truth. All of the designs that you see that you folks live in Kaka'ako was never with the city. It was HCDA. But now that a great deal of the developments have taken place, there are pockets, yes, of the improvement districts that private landowners didn't want to pay into the improvements. So that's why we had to pick it up later on. And that's Cook Street. For Janie's question in regards to how long will it take to get it up to county standards, like any Department of Transportation Services project, you all wait in line. We have 10 times more miles than the state in regards to what we have to maintain. The streets, the avenues. What does the state have jurisdiction over? Maybe Ala Moana Boulevard. But we've got all these side streets that you see here in the District 5 that I do represent. It's tremendous. And I'm not pointing fingers again. The bottom line is sometimes when we have these state mandates without any funding, it's very difficult for the city to finance these projects. And for the past week, we had a great hearing on all types of measures dealing with real property taxation in helping seniors. It's a tough one. If we freeze it for the seniors, how do you make up the loss of that particular real property tax revenue? Huh? Empty homes, we had a difficult time primarily because we could not enforce it. This was brought up at last night's Oahu Development Plan at Leeward Community College. Most of our empty homes, this is for the record, are not residential homes. It's condominiums and apartments that you see in the night where it's dark. Where I come from, Pololo, it's filled with residents. But the question for us today and in the future, will our future generations be able to afford it? And I'm happy that Sharon folks at the state level are trying their best. In the area that affects all of our condominium association members, insurance. 3 weeks ago, I was at the Regency Park up at St. Louis Heights, or the St. Louis area, where HFD made a 2.5-hour presentation, Jeannie. And I think you folks should hear it. Fire prevention. Since the Marco Polo incident, the council did try to address it by creating an ordinance saying, we all have to comply with the safe life evaluation. You folks heard about that. It's when a contractor or HFD goes and see your property, investigates your property to see where you have your deficiencies. Oh, no smoke alarm. No sprinkler systems. The configuration of the door may be different, like what happened with Marco Polo, that big lobby. All of this will contribute to me and you paying more insurance on our homes. That's one of the equations that really scares me, because for the future generations, how do they afford it if inflation is outpacing salaries? So I bring this up because you folks do represent Ala Moana and Kaka'ako, which I was a part of when I was with the state legislature in the creation of the Hawaii Community Development Authority. We did pass measures when I was Speaker of the House to make it 30% affordable rather than 20%, which is a HCDA policy. 30% for our local residents. Never did get to first base as far as passage in the state Senate. So the Cook Street, but maybe if we get somebody from the Department of Design and Construction to be a part of a discussion, that can we find the resources? But there are so many other demands and requests out there for county projects. For Rodney, I apologize in regards to your tree, and my staff is listening now. So the Division of Urban Forestry, take a look at the tree. So they did, see, that's with the city. And they said, it's alive and well, so we're not gonna. Hey, Rodney, no, I bring this up because you brought it up. And what I'm saying to you folks this evening, we do try to follow up with all of these requests. But why did urban forestry say it's not dead?
Any day of the week, time of the week, glass.
Okay. My staff is listening. So Janelle, maybe we call Roxanne, and then we could meet with Rodney. Okay? Other than that, I think for all of us today, and this, I got 4 months and counting, I am concerned about the quality of life for our local residents. That's all it is. But I'm very, very proud, very happy being on the city council. Every morning as I leave my home, heading to Wailea Avenue on 10th, I see Kaimiki Park. You get the Tai Chi groups going. You've got the pickleball going. You've got basketball. But my point today, for the city and county of Honolulu, Ben, there we have over 300 parks that we try to maintain also. For the future representative for this area, you can mandate anything you want to the counties in regards to your lab. You know, what kind of toilet would you want? Have that kind of a discussion. But we've tried everything, but it's just the way the generations are. They have no respect for a county or government property. The article this morning about some of our comfort stations, the toilets are broken. There's no water faucet on LOI, you know, for the marathon runners. I feel embarrassed that we're not providing these type of service. But what can I do when we try to do it? Like for the St. Louis Heights Diamond Head Kapahulu Neighborhood Board, San Suzy Beach, a new shower system. You know, we get criticized. That's not the type of shower system we want. Da, 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 da. I'm not an expert. I'm not an engineer, you know, and we leave it to the civil service employees. And I think you folks understand that. But for the pickleball group, yeah, let me follow up again. And Dennis here to help me out in regards to getting maybe the gift to be approved as quickly as possible. For next week is our full council hearing. So that's where we can adopt it. But it has to be submitted today being Tuesday, as quickly as possible. I'm happy, Kathy, to answer any questions that any of the board members or residents may have.
Thank you, Councilmember Say. Board. Mayor Mariano.
I have no questions, but I would just like to say, Councilman Say, thank you for your years of service, dedicated service, and particularly your dedication to the Ala Moana Kaka'ako area. Whether you're here in person or online, you do follow up and show concern. So for your years of service, I want to applaud you for your and thank you.
Well, for everyone here, I have to say this. I have a fond aloha for Kaka'ako and Ala Moana. Why? I worked 20 years at the old Flamingo Chuck Wagon on Kapilani, which is now a condominium. And that's the beauty of it, sharing your manao with all of you. That I believe the incoming council member will do an excellent job. And we hope for the best that he'll be attending the meetings also. But for District 5, before I close, the board members all know. And for the audience, I represent 7 neighborhood boards that I have to attend. And would you like me to repeat what I said to the board members? No need, huh? No need. Like the first Wednesday is Manoa. First Thursday of the month is Mo'iliili Makali. Second Wednesday is Palolo. Second Thursday, St. Louis Heights, Diamond Head, Kapahulu. The third Thursday, Kaimiki. The third Wednesday is Kaimiki. The third Thursday, it's Makiki Tanlis. And finally, the fourth Tuesday of the month, Ala Moana Kaka'ako. That's great because on behalf of the Neighborhood Commission, I'm happy that there is no conflict for me trying to attend different board meetings at the same time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, community members, and thank you, Councilmember Say, for being here this evening and for all your service in both the House and City Council. Next, we have Councilmember Tyler DeSantos Tam or his representative Robin Hensky. They mentioned they may not be here this evening due to a meeting, but they did have a newsletter online. They also mentioned that they participated in the Bill 3 signing ceremony today, this morning, that introduces incentives for developers to construct affordable housing units. And they also addressed a constituent concern regarding a houseless encampment on South Street and Ala Moana. So just wanted to mention that. Moving on to Representative Scott Nishimoto. I see Taylor Date online.
Board. Thank you so much for hosting the meeting. Sorry, my boss is feeling a little under the weather, so he's not able to make it tonight. But We just wanted to say thank you for all your support, and please let us know, if there's anything that comes up, and we're happy to assist you.
Thank you, Taylor Date. Questions, board? Okay. Representative Adrian Tam. Rep Tam.
Aloha, good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. My newsletter should be there. If you're online, you can find my newsletter at the Capitol website, capital.hawaii.gov. We didn't get much constituent concerns other than the ones that we've already been working on. Most of them are on Alawai Boulevard. So I can open it up to any questions that the board or the members of the audience may have for me.
Okay, board questions? Mandy? Okay, thank you, Rep Adrian Tam, for being here this evening.
Thank you.
Speaker Scott Psyche or his office representative Frank Rodrzezinski? Do we have anyone from Speaker Psyche's office? Okay. And we have Senator Sharon Moriwaki.
Aloha, Chair, members. Glad to be here tonight. This is the interim, so you heard all the bills that we passed. During the interim, we usually go back to the agencies to see whether they're doing what we ask them to do. So like the 99-year lease that HCGA is executing, that came from a bill that the legislature, the Senate, really wanted to see Kaka'ako have, or not necessarily Kaka'ako, but the properties that HCGA owns to be able to pilot a 99-year lease. And this would be for first-time owners and really trying to get young people into these housing units. So it is a pilot, and we're hoping that this will work. It will be for a condo, so they will be helping them to get their first house or unit. It would be a condo unit. So just to clarify that. Also, you have in the interim, I can tell you what things are happening. We funded the Department of Law Enforcement so that there would be this buyback for guns, and we've had a really successful program. I think it was this past Saturday. And again, looking at enforcement, I really believe that the community has to work with the police department. So my one mantra these days is to get involved. We do have citizen patrols, and these are really important because we work with HPD and you walk alongside the officers so that you are known in the community to be the eyes and ears of the department. So this is District 1, covers District 1, and it's a big area. But the new commander, Major Okamoto, is really trying to develop a lot more community interface and really learning, having his young officers learn about the issues in the community. So I really encourage you to join a citizen patrol. In my report, I do have 3 that are ongoing, well, 2. And one is, I know he was here earlier, but he couldn't stay, is Bishop Rain Suru. And he is the bishop of the Shingo Mission on Keomoku Street. He has been vandalized so many times. And so he's working with wanting to develop an association of both the residents and community members so that together, really taking back the community, working together with the police department. So I know that Major Okamoto has been working with him, and I do have a contact email contact. So if you can, or you're interested, or you know people who are interested, businesses and residents, do write to Bishop Zuro. He really would like to have the community working together for this Kaka'ako, not Kaka'ako, but primarily Kaka'ako, but Sheridan also, Ala Moana area. So I think it's really important. The other plus in Alawai Small Boat Harbor, it has been a problem because it has been, the HPD comes by, but it's a tail end or the front end of the entrance into Waikiki. And as you go through it, you can see that it really does need to be improved. It's kind of an eyesore, although we've been trying to improve it. And there's been vandalism there as well. So the work of the Department of Land and Natural Resources, they have a DOCARE, which is their Division of Ocean Conservation Resources Enforcement. They're like actual police officers for the coastal area, from the mountain to the ocean. So they know cultural resources as well as enforcement. And they are now stationed in Alawai Small Boat Harbor. So that really should improve the presence of having them. They have a boat, and then they have their cars there. So we should see improvements. And working with the Waikiki Business Improvement District, we're hoping that we can really improve that area so that we have a nice entree to Waikiki. The other thing that I wanted to mention as we talked about the streets. Sorry that my colleague from the city isn't here. But just to clarify, there were something like 9 private streets that were owned by or allegedly owned by the Kaka'ako Land Development Company. And these were 2 brothers that held on to these properties and really extorted the businesses in the area. So these roads were being, so the businesses in the roads had to pay like $100 a month for a parking stall. If you didn't, your cars were towed. So the state went after, well, first it was private individuals, and then the state took over, and our Attorney General's office, with their help, we actually went after the Kaka'ako Land Company. And it was about 2 or 3 years that this land lawsuit went on, till finally there was a decision that they did not own the property, and that property should go to the Department of Transportation. The law owns all the public highways, and that they get monies from the feds, from the Federal Highways Administration, to fix and improve and develop the highways, not private roads, not streets that are in the county's territory. So that's why those roads were transferred from the Department of Transportation to the Department of Transportation Services in the city. And whatever my colleague says, it is because it is the right jurisdiction for the county, because of Public Works, to be in charge of the streets in their district. So what has happened is that we are looking at ways in which the Department of Transportation can front some money to the city, because they don't have money, to have fixed that part of Queen Street, because it was so well traversed, so that it is paved. But the idea is that ultimately we're going to have the sewers and all of the other infrastructure, the sidewalks, and that's going to cost millions. Now, we also are working on a contested case against the Kaka'ako Land Company. It was held in abeyance because of the lawsuit. Now that the lawsuit decided that the property was not owned by the Kaka'ako Land, the Chun brothers, then what's happened is now we can go forward with that contested case. And that contested case says they've got to pay for how much it costs to bring the streets up to the standards of the city. So that's where we are now. And we're going back to the Attorney General's office to say, let's reactivate this now and continue this case, because it has been decided. The transfer of properties came in January, and so what could be done was done just to fix the Queen Street, but there are other streets that need to be fixed. But just want to clarify that for the record is that we are working on it, but there are jurisdictional issues all the time. And I think this is the first time in my tenure and working with the state and city to see that the state and city work so well together so that there really is a coordination, that you see things being done that before, it would be really a long time. So it's enough. So I just wanted to clarify that. And I'm open to questions.
Thank you, Senator. Member Moto.
Thank you, Senator. So you mentioned the gun buyback program. Are those guns melted down after they're bought back? Are they resold to other communities?
I don't think they're resold. They end at the Department of Law Enforcement. I don't know if they melt it down, but I certainly can check for you.
I mean, it's interesting.
Yeah.
If they're
Yeah.
not. And then you mentioned the lawsuit. So you also said that it turns out they never owned the land.
Well, they had a quitclaim deed.
Okay, so then if they never really owned it, then how can the argument be that they should have maintained it? If they, you know what I mean? How do you win both cases?
Well, no, there is a book on a law on the books that say if you're going to charge anything to anybody, then you better get those roads up to speed to what the city standard is. That's the law they violated. Yeah.
Thank you, Member Uemoto. Members, Member
Rod-
Chang.
Congratulations, Senator.
Thank you.
My question is regarding the 99-year lease. How realistic is the property that gets selected to be developed really going to be in the Kaka'ako? Because I know that HCDA has a ton of property out on the east, out in Eva side. So is it more likely it's going to end up there?
It may very well because you're looking at cost.
Right.
Always cost. But HCDA owns property in Kapolei, is it Kapolei West Side, and they own in on Maui, and they also own Kaka'ako. So I think where they can find property that they could make the pencil out, that's where.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, you can come. You can share this with me.
Maybe you can state your name beforehand.
Hello, Brett Eberhardt, husband of Sue over there. This is in reference to Mother Waldron, the pickleball parks there. I play there all the time. I play pickleball, and there's a lot of great players on the island. Specifically a 13-year-old phenom that plays there. He's currently on the tour. Is going to be great. This question is regarding the homeless problem at Mother Waldron. You talk about us getting involved. We call the police 1 to 2 times a week. They show up. People with the wrench, fighting, knives, all this stuff. Please show up. They just show up. They ask a few questions, and the homeless people know the deal. They know where to hide all the stuff. They go away. I've gone to the bathroom many times where they're smoking crack. It's pretty much a drug den in both of those bathrooms, so no one uses those bathrooms anymore. And I understand the response I get, I've emailed your office, and the response I get from the police and from you is that we're trying. I don't know what we're trying is. I don't know what that means. It's very frustrating for us that are down there to have to deal with that every day. And when visitors come in from off island and they see what we have to deal with down there, it's not the Hawaii that they think Hawaii should be down there. So I'm just wondering, how do we clean that park up? How do we get those individuals out of there? We have ideas that you move the dog park to the other side, make it bigger, have more civilians down there who will force the homeless to not want to be there. If there's a lot more people in the park, they have no desire to be there. Get the bathroom going so we can use it. We have to walk to Starbucks or these other places to use the bathroom because we don't want to deal with the drug den going to the bathroom. So anything you reply on that, appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We also have people who live in the district, so we know about the problems and the drug problems. The other day, I had a meeting with a senior who lives across the street who has been reporting it. And we have the police going, as you say, they come and they see it and then they report it and they move on. And we try to get the department, this is the city problem. We get the Department of Facilities Management to come and clean it up, but then it comes back again. So the other day, because I have another project going on, we were able to bring the major for the narcotics division. And so now we are getting a little bit more traction because now you're getting people who really know about drugs. Whereas the patrolling officers really, I mean, you know, they can only say, well, you got to move on, and then they report it. So I'm hoping that that might be a way to start looking at what is the cause of the problem. There was another problem, a drug house that was up the street on Queen Street, and that was for years, I think, get into it and really stop it. The narcotics division was able to do that, I think, several months ago, and it was shut down. There was drugs, there was prostitution, there was all kinds of things going on in that place on Queen Street. So now they're going to be monitoring that. So I hope that through that, and you're right, the activation of the area, so more people using the park will in fact be able to activate the park. There is one thing that I worked on this past session is to appropriate some funds for a multi-purpose center there, a small one at the parks. Again, activate the park because it is a really good park and it's a neighborhood park, as you say. It's wonderful. So yeah, we all have to kind of, you know, keep in touch with us because not that we can't do anything tomorrow, but we certainly can keep at it. And the more we keep at it, the more we can drive people who shouldn't be there out of it. So thank you very much.
Senator, thank you for being here this evening. Appreciate it. Okay, the time is now 8:47. Do we have anyone from Congressman Case's office? Now we'll move on to the announcements. We have our social media accounts. Our next board meeting is on Tuesday, September 24th. Our meeting is every fourth Tuesday of the month. And we also have our action committee meeting coming up on September 12th. If you would like to go over this meeting, we have the recordings on Olelo. Thank you, James, for being here this evening. And again, making that call for Olelo to be at our meetings a little bit more frequently. And this meeting is adjourned at 8:48 p.m.